Hello, welcome to this week's Weather Studio Live. I'm Annie Shuttleworth.
I'm Aidan McGiven, welcome along.
And it's Friday, 12:15. We've been doing this every day for over a year now. 2 weeks ago, we celebrated our 1-year anniversary, didn't we?
Of doing this.
Of doing this, yeah. Not our anniversary.
No, we've known each other far longer.
We have, yeah. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us on Facebook as well. We've had a few comments in already. Keep those coming. We're going to answer as many as we can today. But it is a chilly one, isn't it?
Oof, you're telling me. I'm just thawing out here. Fingers and toes, still a little bit numb. I cycled to work. Yeah,
Aidan was very brave. A lot of the presenters actually do cycle to work. Often I didn't today because I had a small child in tow, so I thought that would be not great for his welfare, to be honest. But Aidan did take the risk. So we'll be talking about the weather from this week, the cold, snowy weather we've had, how that's going to change into the weekend and beyond as well. You've got a bit of an outlook into
a bit of a tease. So I'm going to be touching
the rest
on
of the winter.
Yeah, sudden stratospheric warming. I've had a few questions about that, so I'm going to be touching on that a little bit later on. But in the meantime, well, we can forget about winter for now, can't we?
Yeah, this weekend all change indeed. But yeah, it has been freezing, to be honest.
Yeah.
Even down here. I mean, we've not had the coldest weather in Exeter, have we? But what did we get down to last night?
Well, when I left the house, I checked the temperature at Exeter Airport because I could pass Exeter Airport on my bike. It was -4 at the airport, and yeah, that's about as cold as it gets down here in the winter, to be honest. -4, -5, lots of ice. Beautiful scenery. It was just bone-numbingly cold. So bad for my welfare.
You need some the heated gloves, heated socks.
I've got some, but I forgot to charge the heated gloves. No. You've got to charge so many things these days. I remembered to charge my lights, but not my gloves.
Oh dear.
So I didn't have the full benefit of that on possibly the coldest night of the season. It got down to -12.6 Celsius in an observation site at Tomin Towel in the Cairngorms.
Well pronounced.
So that was the lowest temperature we've seen so far this season. And actually a few private weather stations run by weather enthusiasts, but not calibrated, not part of the Met Office observation network, so not official readings. These got down to about -17 Celsius in some of the frost hollows of Scotland.
Yes, so very cold indeed.
Yeah.
Is that the coldest night we've had of the years, of the
season?
The season.
Yes.
The season
I can't remember
so
what it
far.
got down to last winter, or in January, February, but
yeah,
I imagine it was probably a bit lower than that.
Yeah, definitely. I think of this season, though, definitely. It's getting milder into the weekend. You were not the only person to cycle to work today.
Oh, yeah.
We've already had a few comments in. Trevor Arben, cold cycle to work in East Suffolk.
Trevor.
Yeah. Any more frosts after tonight? Actually, East Suffolk, that's probably, although it is getting milder, it is going to be staying cold in the far southeast, at least this evening, so your cycle home may still be a little chilly, but it is going to be turning milder, definitely. What have you been up to this week, Aidan, other than cycling into work?
Yeah, it's been pretty busy, with the Arctic winds. We've been looking at that. I did the deep dive and looked at the remarkable contrast between the southerlies that we had this time last week.
Yeah.
We had a cross-section that showed the southerlies in the south and the northerlies in the north, and this extraordinary temperature contrast which led to such wet weather in the middle, especially across parts of Wales. Obviously, Monmouth saw that devastating flooding. So if you want to learn more about that, was Tuesday's deep dive. I also then looked in depth at the source of the air that we've got over us at the moment, coming all the way from the Arctic, actually coming from Siberia, going through the Arctic and then coming here. So it's about as cold as it gets.
It doesn't get much colder than that.
No.
No, that's a very, very cold pathway to take. And where was it coming from? Yeah, last Friday up.
Last Friday across Scotland it was coming from the Arctic, and across southern England it was coming from North Africa. So it's proper clash,
Yeah.
two opposites colliding and not budging. So we had this virtually stationary weather front in the middle, which brought so much wet weather.
Yeah, it was super wet last week. I think I was having a look at the stats of the month so far, and we've already had November's average month worth of rainfall across parts of England and Wales, more so actually in some areas of Wales, but not across parts of Scotland where we've had all the snow recently.
And we've gone from one of the warmest first halves of November on record to much colder week this week with snow, of course, in places. Obviously, a lot of people watching this won't have seen any snow because it's been highly localised to very specific areas, as you often get in a northerly. But those areas that have been exposed to the northerly shower streams, they've had a lot of snow. So Pembrokeshire, up to a foot of snow in places, because they've had the Pembrokeshire
Dangler. I think we were all trying to get that into our forecast this week, weren't we? Saying the Pembrokeshire Dangler. Got a few questions about it, and you covered it in the deep dive.
Yeah, public service, because obviously that's the reason behind so many showers across Pembrokeshire, and some of those showers affected the southwest, Cornwall, and they had some snow for Exmoor, Dartmoor, but really substantial snow on the other side of the UK. North York Moors, 25 centimetres, and roads cut off, some villages cut off, and big drifts of snow in the North York Moors. And then northern Scotland obviously has had a week of snow showers and whatnot, and so a foot or more of snow in some places. Northern Ireland's had a bit as well. So yes, some places have seen a lot of snow, many other places none.
Exactly. We haven't seen any at all here, but
No.
it's certainly been cold wherever you are, but we have got to change the way. Loads of questions coming in from you all watching. Thank you for joining us, guys. We've got loads to get through today. So we've got one question, one that's random one that's just sticking out to me is what's the difference between a hurricane and a typhoon? Which is something I got asked by my family the other day, and I think to us it seems a bit fairly obvious. The words are sort of flung around, but it's to do with which ocean they're formed in.
Yeah, it's a naming thing.
It's actually the same thing, really, just in different oceans. So the hurricanes in the Atlantic, typhoon in the Eastern Pacific.
Yeah, Western Pacific.
Yeah. So, and the same for a cyclone in the sort of southern Pacific / you get them cyclones around affecting Australia, that sort of area. Loads and loads of questions coming in. Keep them coming. We have got lots of questions about southern stratospheric warming. We're going to be talking about that later on, so hold fire on those questions. But yeah, it's going to be changing into this weekend. Do you want to have a look at the weather?
Yeah, let's take a look.
All this chat about the weekend, let's have a look at what's actually going to happen.
Well, let's take a look at the bigger picture first of all. Actually, let's take a look at the current radar. This is the radar, but it's not just showing the rain, it's showing the snow as well. The blue colours are the rain, and the white colours are where it's snow or sleet or hail, anything whitish coming out of the sky. And it's the last 24 hours. So what we're seeing, start of Thursday, that's where it starts off, all those showers affecting eastern, the far north and western fringes of the UK. In between, lots of places saw bright skies. Then we've seen those showers easing overnight, and we're now waking up. Yeah, I think, was it Gordon that said that he cycled to work?
It was Trevor.
Trevor cycled to work. Bit of sleet in Suffolk, and you can see that as it goes to Friday morning there. Bit of sleet, but that's all clearing away now. And it's a beautiful day out there. Plenty of sunshine for many, but we've got the next system moving into western Scotland, Northern Ireland, and this marks the boundary between the cold Arctic air and the less cold Atlantic air. And you can see on the bigger picture what's taking place. Here is the weather front responsible for the rain that's now coming into western Scotland. It's going to fall as snow over higher parts of Scotland and northern England as it bumps into the colder air before eventually the milder air takes over, because it is turning a bit milder. There's the cold air. It's going to be shunted away to the east the jet stream dipping there across Central Europe. So much colder than normal across Central Europe into parts of Italy, Balearics, Sardinia, Corsica and so on. Here's the Atlantic weather returning with the jet stream. Now the source of this air actually coming in from the west is actually sourced from parts of northern Canada. So it's not the same kind of mild that we saw during the first half of November, which was sourced from lower latitudes often. We had west to southwesterly winds, and so we had much milder air. So yes, it's turning less cold, but it's not going to be as mild as we often saw during the first couple of weeks of November. Nevertheless, this weather front topples across the UK overnight, and it's going to bring a spell of rain. Then we're back to very mixed weather. In fact, the jet stream picks up this area of low pressure, which is quite a complex system. It divides into two areas of low pressure later Sunday and dips south. You can see the dip in the jet stream there across the UK, and this low likely to bring showery rain, heavy downpours and increasingly strong winds, especially towards the southwest of the UK. Once that's through though, clears away to the east, and we get another spell of northerly winds, but not as cold. The air not directly sourced from the Arctic this time, instead it's just coming around the back of that low pressure. And a ridge of high pressure building in for Tuesday, Wednesday, so a period early to mid next week where it's drier and brighter for a time. Overnight frost returning, but plenty of sunshine by day, not as cold as it's been this week. The temperature's a little below average. And then you can see the next step in this chain of events. Low pressure, quite a big area of low pressure, slowly coming in towards the west. Eventually, towards the end of the week next week, switching our winds to southwesterlies. I'm going to talk about that a bit more later. But eventually, southwesterly winds coming back. And as a result, it does turn mild at the end of next week. So we're not talking about it being mild over the next few days. Temperatures about average or just below average, and we can see that from this temperature trend graphic. These are the daytime temperatures. So today, fairly widely across the UK, just 2 to 6 degrees, lower than that where we've got snow cover. Saturday we're back to 7s, 8s, double figures perhaps towards the south and southwest, but typically 7s and 8s. Similar on Sunday. Monday similar again, but we go to how that compares with average. You can see that well below average today across the UK, so 3 to 6 degrees below average in places, and then back to around average with some of these blue patches, so some places still a little below average. Those are the daytime temperatures, and then the nighttime temperatures still a little below average over the next few days and nights. So yeah, we're not necessarily becoming warm, but it's just going to be less cold. And here's the picture for all these different weather parameters over the next few days. This is Friday, plenty of fine weather across the UK, but we have got the cloud and the rain across Scotland and Northern Ireland. Into Saturday, that front moves through, so a wet start for many parts of England and Wales, but eventually by the afternoon the front is lingering across parts of the Midlands, East Anglia and the South East. Sunnier skies returning to the north and the west. 1 or 2 showers in the far northwest and western coasts, but otherwise some reasonable weather for a period of time before the next low that I mentioned comes along. And here it is, likely to bring a much more unsettled day again on Sunday. Spells of rain moving in, rotating around that low before eventually those spells of rain start to spill southwards. Some heavy downpours of showery rain, I think, for many parts of the UK on Sunday. And this here shows the wind gust graphic. So the coloured areas are where you've got wind gusts of 50 miles an hour or more, and 1 or 2 spots 60 miles an hour there across exposed coasts of the southwest. So very blustery as we go through into Sunday night and into Monday morning. Once that's clearing through, Monday is a day where it's becoming less wet and windy, brighter skies eventually, still a lot of showers running into the east. And then Tuesday we've got that ridge of high pressure building in. Sunnier skies developing for many after a chilly start to frost in places. Looks like a mostly fine day. So reasonably mixed weather over the next few days.
Yeah.
Temperatures recovering a little bit, and it's going to be quite unsettled. I think at the weekend, just a few degrees increase in temperatures, but when you factor in the fact that it's going to be wet and windy,
I know.
Probably feel less pleasant than many places are experiencing today.
Yeah, when you've got the sunshine out, you can actually enjoy just some nice weather. You don't really caring exactly what the temperature is, but if it's raining, quite overcast and 4 degrees, it's not going to be feeling
not my
fantastic.
Cup of tea.
Certainly not my cup of tea either. We've got a few questions in. Wild car ride is off to see Amy McDonald. God, I didn't know she was on tour. I'm a big fan, actually.
Yeah.
Tomorrow in Sheffield. So has the rain cleared Sheffield by 7 o'clock?
Yeah.
7 o'clock tomorrow.
Looks pretty reasonable, actually.
Yeah.
So what time's this? This is 1 p.m. Let's bring up the bigger picture here. Sheffield, 1 p.m. The rain is clearing about that time. You know, there we are. It's 5 p.m. It's not looking bad.
Not
looking
too bad. You should have a good time. I assume you're going to be inside anyway, but perhaps you're going for dinner beforehand or whatever.
Make a night of it.
We've been chatting. So this week, when we've been talking about rain and showers, we often talk about wintry showers. We've had a question in about referring to wintry showers, and that includes sleet, hail as well as snow. And so the question is, what is hail?
What is hail? Well, it depends. There's a couple of different types of hail, right? And one of them doesn't necessarily occur exclusively in the winter. So this is where it gets a bit confusing, and we throw around the term wintry showers as if everyone knows what we're talking about. That's not necessarily the case. No. Some people just think it's like rain that happens in the winter. That's what I've heard. So I try not to use the term wintry showers too much, because I understand that not many people are completely aware of what it means, but we use it when we're talking about that kind of mixture between rain, sleet and snow that you get so often in this country. It doesn't necessarily always snow. It's, you know, transitions between all these different phases because it's so marginal. But in the winter you can get soft hail, so that's the kind of sometimes it can be referred to as graupel. It's a kind of balls of ice that form in shallower clouds because the clouds are sub-zero, and in the States they might call that sleet, but in the UK sleet is a mix of rain and snow. Now the hard hail, that can occur at any time of year. In fact, it's more common in warmer times of the year. You're more likely to find really big hail in hot countries like the USA with these massive cumulonimbus clouds and supercell thunderstorms, because the really hard hail isn't exclusive to the winter. It's caused by huge amounts of energy in the cloud that helps to take frozen bits of ice from the bottom up to the top, these updrafts, and every time they go through the cloud again, they form another layer of ice, and if the updrafts are powerful enough, then those hail pieces stay in the cloud for longer and just form more and more layers of ice.
All the energy causing this big... Yeah, we get some hail, but not the biggest hail. Yeah, it's the States that see some of the biggest hail and some of the biggest snowflakes, which is something you might want to think about ahead of our quiz later on, just a sneak preview, just to let you know, Aidan. But yeah, loads of questions coming in. Jason Good is off to Lanzarote, that was badly affected by Storm Claudia last week, so he's a bit worried about the weather for his week away, so he wants to know what it's going to be like next week. A week from tomorrow. From tomorrow in Lanzarote.
Here we go. It's not looking as unsettled. It's been relatively cold, actually, the last couple of days because of the same weather pattern that we've experienced. They've had a bit more of a northerly airflow, but you can see into next week, we've got this big area of high pressure forming to the south of the jet stream. The jet stream is going to be affecting the UK. And let's put the rain on, see if there's any indication of rain for Lanzarote. No, it looks pretty reasonable.
I think they had some wet, had some wet weather earlier this week, but
they had some very wild weather because of Storm Claudia. And earlier this week they had some systems going through.
But now there's some quite wet weather going into Italy, Croatia, through next week as well. And they've had the first snow in the Alps too. Well, not the first. I think there was a little bit of snow earlier this year, but there has been some snow this year.
And Scandinavia, a lot of snow in
Yes.
Scandinavia. So a good start to the ski season.
Definitely, which will be starting in a month or so. So it has been very cold here, getting warmer. There's quite a lot of questions about if it's going to be cold again. Is there a chance of snow into December? Chicken, I could have typed X6Q6D wants to know if an SSW is still on the cards.
A lot of people have been asking about sudden stratospheric warming, and the short answer is that yes, a sudden stratospheric warming is likely to happen soon. And yes, there's a chance that it will have implications on the UK's weather, but it's not as straightforward as you might imagine. As always with the weather in the UK, there are many factors involved, and it's a game of probabilities rather than certainties. Let's explain first of all what a sudden stratospheric warming is for the uninitiated. There is a longer explanation on the Met Office YouTube channel, a video about sudden stratospheric warming, so I'm taking some of the graphics from that video here. But just briefly, every year during the summer, the stratosphere above the North Pole warms up, and the reason it warms up is because the stratosphere warms and cools due to its ozone layer. That's where we've got the ozone layer, and when the sun shines on the stratosphere during the summer, the ozone layer heats up. So the stratosphere above the North Pole heats up as the sun shines on it, and then during the autumn, as the sun dips below the horizon and disappears, that stratosphere cools down. Now, by stratosphere, we're talking about a layer of the atmosphere that is above the troposphere. The troposphere is the lowest layer of the atmosphere, up to about 10 kilometers high. That's where we get most of our weather from. The jet stream typically at the top of the troposphere. And then the stratosphere is between 10 and 50 kilometers above the surface. So it's typically, at about mid-heights, 30 kilometers high. We can also talk about these heights in terms of pressure. Now, the troposphere at the bottom where we all live, the atmospheric pressure is about 1,000 hectopascals or millibars, and that's because you've got this big weight of atmosphere resting on top of us. As you go higher up, the millibars or hectopascals get lower, and when you get to about a midpoint of the stratosphere, about 30 kilometers, that has a pressure reading of about 10 hectopascals. So meteorologists, when we're looking at weather charts for what's happening in the stratosphere, we don't use heights, we use pressure levels, because that makes more sense when we're looking at how the weather is changing and how it's interacting with other layers of the atmosphere. So we're talking about high up in the atmosphere, and in that stratosphere during the winter it cools down rapidly once the sun goes below the horizon. Now, what happens then is that causes a big difference between the temperature of the stratosphere at lower latitudes, so closer to the equator, for example. That temperature difference causes a very strong current of wind, a circulation, this ring in the stratosphere surrounding the North Pole, something that's called the polar night jet, which I think is a pretty cool term. But that polar night jet strengthens through the autumn, and it helps to contain that cold air. It keeps it locked in place. Now, throughout the autumn and the winter, once that's formed, it's constantly interfered with and knocked and bumped into by various disturbances in the atmosphere from elsewhere in the world. So all sorts of weather patterns around the world can send waves, ripples, like ripples in a lake, throughout the global atmosphere, and those ripples can bump into this stratospheric polar vortex. So that's happening all winter, but sometimes a ripple can be big enough to knock the winds and disturb them so much that we see a weakening of that wind, and we see air being shoved from elsewhere in the globe. So these waves come along, air gets shoved into the North Pole, and when you get a pile-up of air from elsewhere in the globe onto the stratosphere in the North Pole, then it, instead of being low pressure over the North Pole, it rises in pressure and the temperature rises. And this can happen suddenly, And so that's where the word sudden stratospheric warming comes from, this sudden warming in the stratosphere. That then changes that temperature difference between the stratosphere and the North Pole and elsewhere, and that subsequently weakens the strong current that we've got surrounding the stratosphere and the North Pole, this circulation. Now, sometimes it just weakens, sometimes the polar vortex splits in two, or it gets knocked off the North Pole. Various things can happen when these disturbances or these sudden stratospheric warmings take place. Sometimes the wind circulation can reverse. So instead of west to east, it becomes east to west. So various things can happen. But ultimately, sometimes what that causes is higher pressure close to the Arctic in the troposphere. And higher pressure close to the Arctic in the troposphere can shove the jet stream further south, weaken the jet stream, and instead of a strong jet stream bringing us westerlies and southwesterlies from the Atlantic, spells of rain and wind and higher temperatures through the autumn and winter, we are more likely to get northerlies or easterlies, which in the winter tend to be cold. I say more likely because it's not guaranteed. Typically, there's a 70% chance that after a sudden stratospheric warming, or SSW, we get colder weather in the UK. So 7 out of 10 times it happens, 3 out of 10 times it doesn't happen. Here's an example of when a sudden stratospheric warming did take place. Now this is the temperature at 30 kilometres above the North Pole, so 10 hectopascals, 30 kilometres, through a typical season. Starting in September over here, it's minus 40 degrees or so, and then you can see this big drop through the autumn, reaching a nadir around December, shortest day of the year, and then it slowly climbs. This is the average, okay? And then it climbs up to minus 30 again in the summer, but it dips down to about minus 80. That's the average temperature in the stratosphere above the North Pole. This is what happened in the month of January 2019. You can see that drop. It actually went below average temperature through the autumn, and then this sudden warming happened at the start of January. That's 2019, and in this instant it didn't cause massive effects in the UK. It was a little bit colder for a time, but actually the biggest impacts were over Scandinavia. That contrasted with 2018 in March. A lot of people remember the beast from the east. That was a consequence of a sudden stratospheric warming. But, just to emphasise, 70% of the time we get colder weather following a sudden stratospheric warming. 3 out of 10 times you don't. It doesn't necessarily follow that you get an SSW and you get a beast from the east. That would be foolish to link those two all the time, because we get about one SSW on average every couple of years. We certainly don't get a beast from the east once every couple of years. They're pretty rare. They happen every 10 years or so on that scale, has to be said. So we'll go back to that chart for a moment. What are we expecting to happen next week, and what could be the implications for the UK? This is the same sort of chart. It's showing the temperature at that height, 30 kilometres above the North Pole, as we've observed it. There's the average, but the black line is as we've observed it through this season so far. So it's followed the average, a little bit of a dip there at the start of November. And then you can see this climb. It started to warm. What happens next? Well, one way to predict what's going to happen next is to look at these charts of the zonal mean wind at 10 hectopascals. So this is the strength of the wind circulation above the North Pole in the stratosphere. And this is from 50 or so simulations from the European model. So lots of blue lines there. And you can see most of them agree that it's going to continue. So the higher up the chart there, the stronger the westerly wind. There's the 0 line there, so if it dips to 0, well, there's no westerly wind, and if it goes below that 0, it means it's an easterly wind, so it's reversed. But what it looks like is going to happen is that it's weakening to around 0 and staying about there for next week and into the start of the following week. A little bit of a recovery, and then it's kind of back to around 0. So a weakening. And that's what we'd call a minor sudden stratospheric warming. A major sudden stratospheric warming would be where it goes below the 0. It's reversed. It's now an easterly wind rather than a westerly. In terms of the sudden stratospheric warming, it's a much more powerful one and much more dramatic, and could have more dramatic impacts on the UK's weather. But this is more likely to be a minor SSW. But what's interesting about it is how early it's happening. We don't often see it happening at the end of November, start of December. And one thing that's worth bearing in mind is the lag effect between that happening and the impacts, or the potential impacts on the UK's weather. It's a lag effect of about 2 weeks. So if it's happening around the middle of next week, we're not talking about impacts potentially until the 2nd or 3rd week of December. And that is a bit far off to tell at the moment whether there will be impacts from the sudden stratospheric warming. What we can do is look at the temperature trend for the next 10 days, and it looks fairly clear that it's actually going to warm up before any potential cool down. This shows the temperature trend through next week. So this recovery that we've got by Monday, the day-night difference there highlighted by the zigzag pattern. And this is showing the output, again, from about 50 different computer model simulations. They're all in agreement that it's going to be a little bit less cold this weekend, dipping again around Tuesday, Wednesday, but then most of these models agree that it's going to get milder as we end next week. So potential for a mild spell next weekend after this. And that's explained when we look at the most likely weather patterns for that weekend. They're tending to be westerly or southwesterly. This shows for Saturday, 29th of November, the most likely weather patterns, the top 3, and the temperature compared with average. And there's a lot of oranges and reds on the charts, so it looks likely that we're going to have westerlies or southwesterlies, unsettled, spells of rain, but higher than average temperatures. That could then change, but there's a lot of uncertainty. By the time we get to Saturday, the 6th of December, there are more of these computer simulations that show higher pressure building somewhere close to the UK. But there's a lot of variability in the computer models, and there's no clear signal at the moment. It's certainly too early to see if that sudden stratospheric warming will have an impact on the UK. But we'd be looking at the 2nd or potentially the 3rd week of December if it does.
So it's going to warm up first. We've had a question about whether the SSW increases the chance of colder weather in the run-up to Christmas. 2nd, 3rd week of December could be counted as the run-up to Christmas. So perhaps there's your answer, Samuel, Y3, Y4, Y. But yeah, it's still too early to tell exactly what the effects will be. We've had a call for an episode on the polar vortex. Well, I think that was a pretty comprehensive guide to it. Yeah. So you can always watch that one back if you like. But noted for future episodes we're making and on our Learn About Weather videos as well that we've been putting together. It's going to be an interesting start to the winter, isn't it? I think.
But there's so many things that you can look at with the winter weather in the UK.
Yeah.
In the immediate term, we look at computer modelling, so up to 2 weeks or so, and then after that it's the teleconnections, and there's loads of stuff happening at the moment, whether it's La Nina in the Pacific, we look at the Madden-Julian oscillations, so these thunderstorms that happen, and the enhanced thunder activity transfers around the world, and that can impact the UK's weather as well. So we're looking at all these things all the time and how they might affect our weather beyond 2 weeks. And it's interesting how they can vary so much each season.
Yeah, there's so many factors at play, and we've had a question from Sam Fraser. We're honestly getting so many questions in, thank you guys, of how can you actually tell what weather we're going to get in the UK? And
right, how long have we got?
Yeah, how long have we got? I mean, that was just an insight into how many factors play into what the weather forecast is going to be. So it's not a straightforward process, is it? But it keeps us busy, and that's why we love it, and that's why a lot of you at home love it as well, because it's so interesting. Hopefully you're learning more and more about the weather in these sessions as well. Someone else asking, Jay Boyle Forever has asked whether the touch screen, the amazing touch screen, might ever be made available on the Met Office website for the weather enthusiasts. There's no plans at the moment.
Sorry.
We wish, definitely we wish. There is a new app coming out though. in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, start of December.
I don't know how many new features on the maps there are. I think there's at least you can have the cloud and rain in one layer. So that might give you a little bit more to look at and play with at home. Any other questions? We've had so many. I think it might be time for a quiz.
Oh, yes.
Are you happy? Yeah. If you're happy with that, then we'll move on to the quiz. There we are. Right.
I'm thirsty after all that talking. Oh no, I've spilt it now. You can't see that, so that's okay.
Oopsie. Right, so this week's theme to the quiz is not that imaginative, I won't lie, but I think you're going to like it. It's cold weather and snow generally, to be honest.
Oh,
so no pressure because I know you're a big fan of the snow.
I'm doing a video at the moment on snow. So you said one of the questions was about the biggest snowflake.
Oh, don't give it away yet.
Okay. Well, no, you said it. When
I did, yeah, that's true. I did say it.
I'm looking forward to
So
that.
do you know the answer already?
Well, it depends whether you're talking about snowflake or snow crystal.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe you can educate us during the question.
Okay.
Okay, right. So this is the quiz. We'll be doing it. We do them every week. Please play along at home. The questions will be posted in the chat for the video. So we'll be checking out the poll as well. Aidan will be answering his question before he looks at the poll, won't you?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Aidan
Not
will be
like Burkill.
Aidan will be sending me his answers, so send through your answers, answer the poll as well, play along with us. Right, so question number 1. This morning's temperature dropped to minus 12.6, but what is the coldest overnight temperature ever recorded in November? Is it A, minus 21.2, B, minus 19.8, C, minus 23.3, or D, minus 25.6?
I've sent you my answer.
He's got it.
Yeah, we were talking about this earlier in the week, so I'm quite confident.
Oh, that's good. Okay. I haven't actually got the poll open, so I can't see what anyone is answering.
Oh, yeah.
Let me just get
I haven't either. Here we go.
We can have a look. What does everyone think at home? Oh, no answers so far. As what for? Oh, 68 votes. It's not coming up for me as
Can
to.
I vote in the poll? That would be skewing things, wouldn't it? Oh.
A few.
306 Max Cievo said A. Martin Bain said minus 23.3. A few people going with minus 23.3.
Oh, here we go. It's all coming in.
A lot of guesses for C.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, and mind you, A has come top of the poll.
It has.
Minus 21.2.
Okay, well, we will find out.
Yeah.
Right, next question. On average, in the UK, we have 23 days of snow a year. But how many days of snow have we had in November so far?
Or anywhere in the UK?
Anywhere in the UK, yeah. And day of snow, just if you don't know at home, day of snow is when snow is recorded falling.
At a place.
Station, at an observed station, not just sort of it snowed anywhere, but it has to have been recorded as falling. So at weather stations, people are looking at the weather type that's happening at there and then when it's recorded. And if it's snowing, then it's noted down. Okay, so your options are, it's quite straightforward, 4, 5, 6 or 7 days.
Right. Well, Scotland's had falling snow for at least a week. But then a break, that it was a bit drier at the weekend.
Yes.
4, 5, 6.
Or 7.
Or 7.
And that's A to D, as you say.
Okay. I'm going to go with... Well, we know it was reported, not including today, I'm guessing. So
Yes, it doesn't include today because that will be accounted for tomorrow morning, first thing, when we have the whole day's data.
I'm torn between 5 and 6. I'm going to go with 5.
Okay. A few 5s as well coming in.
It's got to be one of those middle values, hasn't it?
Yeah.
36% of people think 6. Could be right. It depends on whether those weather stations
I've picked it up. I know there's a slight limitation in that fact, but anyway, yeah, I thought that was interesting. And there's a difference. We have data on days of snow, of it falling and it lying as well. So there's lots of ways you can think about it. But okay, question number 3. During the snowiest winter of the 20th century in the UK, snow fell every day for 55 days. But in what year?
1947.
Exactly. So the options are...
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
A, 1947, B, 1919, C, 1982, or D, 1948. So what do you think at home? Aidan has just gone for a shotgun answer of 1947, whatever option that is. Do you agree with him? Do you trust him? But yeah, let us know what you think at home. Okay, we'll skip on to the next question then.
That's interesting. You didn't have 1963 as one of the options.
Which is the coldest winter.
That was the coldest.
Yeah. Well, I thought that would be obvious. I tried to pick up the other options are of sort of records of coldest months, of coldest ever temperatures in different months. So try and trick you, but it seems you're untrickable. Okay, right there. Question 4 and 5 get a little bit more interesting. Thought those were kind of hopefully people could guess them. Some of the quizzes have been, in my opinion, quite difficult recently, so trying to give a few easier.
I like it. I like this quiz. I'm enjoying it.
Okay, question number 4. According to the Guinness World Book of Records, how wide was the biggest snowflake ever recorded? Your options are A, 38 centimetres, B, 21 centimetres, C, 26 centimetres, or D, 15 centimetres?
Okay, so I talked to the world's foremost snowflake expert about this.
Right.
Right? I'm not saying I get the answer right, because none of those, the answer I thought would come up didn't come up. Right.
No.
Okay, so here's the thing. There's a professor that I've talked to, Professor Kenneth Liebrecht, about snow crystals because he grows them in his lab in California, and this is coming in a video very soon, in the next few weeks, about how snow forms.
Right.
So the snow crystals he grows in the lab, they get to about 1 centimetre at best. And every year he noticed that the Guinness Book of Records was quoting the record for the biggest snowflake ever recorded. And it was like, I thought it was about 10 centimetres or 15 centimetres, okay? But way bigger than the snow crystals that he grows in his lab. And the reason is because the snowflake that the Guinness Book of Records is quoting is like a conglomeration of these snow crystals. So the classic hexagonal shape, like the Christmas tree kind of star, hexagonal kind of shape, that is not what the Guinness Book of Records is defining as the largest snowflake. It's all of those stuck together. So it's when you get these big clumps, collections of snow crystals coming out of the sky. And the correct terminology is that the snow crystals are the individual things, and then the snowflakes might encompass the big collection of the things. So then he suggested that they had another record for the largest snow crystal.
Okay, which would probably be a bit more interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's actually quite difficult to make them more than 1 centimetre.
Yeah.
Although he did photograph one that was about 1 centimetre. So the world record for the largest snow crystal is about 1 centimetre. But I don't know about the snowflake. It's like 10, 15 centimetres. It's a kind of nonsense record anyway, because it's not a real snow. Okay,
well, I think as we're talking about it, I'll just introduce my prop here.
Oh, no.
Which I think you've seen before, but for those at home, this is a model size of the largest. This is all according to the Guinness World Book of Records.
Yeah.
So, as Aidan says, there are some limitations on that.
That's a model size.
This is a model size. So this is the width. But the depth, it's not a 3D size, so it would be 20 centimetres deep.
Yeah.
Thick,
but it wouldn't have looked like that, because it wouldn't have that hexagonal shape, because it would be like a mixture of lots of those hexagonals all stuck together. So it'd be more like a clump.
Yeah.
Like the kind of snowball that you might pick up, powdery snow and throw up.
Yes, you wouldn't be able to.
So it wouldn't have looked like that.
No, I think, yeah, don't be fooled by this.
But is that the size of it?
But this is the size, so I don't know if you can tell at home how big that is, but yeah, maybe Aidan, this will give you it. So it's 38 centimetres, 21 centimetres, 26 centimetres, or 15. All will be revealed. I need to look after that carefully because that is Victoria's prized possession. Okay, right, final question. Now, I was told that you weren't very good on your sport, so I thought I'd introduce a sporty question. Okay, question number 5. The Elfstedentocht is a 200-kilometre speed skating race on natural ice. It last took place in 1997, but in which country? Is it A, Norway, B, the Netherlands, C, Germany, or D, Finland?
What are the options again?
A, Norway, B, the Netherlands, C, Germany, D, Finland.
And it took place when?
1997 was the last time it took place.
Because of global warming.
But yeah, because of global warming, it can't happen anymore because it's on natural ice, so it's needs to be.
And what's it called?
It's called the Elfstedentocht.
Right. Well, you lived in the Netherlands.
I did live in the Netherlands.
So is this why you know it? And they've got things that can freeze.
They do. They've got a lot of canals.
And
it's flat, as many people know.
Thinking, and that doesn't sound like a Norwegian or Finnish word. It sounds either German or Dutch.
Okay, wow.
I'm gonna say the Netherlands.
What do you think at home? Let us know. We have had my poll is just playing catch up. There's so many questions coming in. A lot of questions about the snowflakes as well. 35% think the Netherlands as well. And with the, did we have the snowflake? No, that's not the snowflake answer. 37% as well. 37% seems to be a running theme. 21 centimetres at home. 16% for the 38 centimetres. Right, keep your votes coming in. Thank you very much for playing. Shall we find out some answers?
Oh, I'm dying to know. Go on.
Okay, so question number 1. The answer was 23.3, which was C,
yes.
Which is what you went for. 1 out of 5.
And quite a few people got that right. Although not the majority.
Not the majority? No, okay.
I think the majority went for minus 21.2. Close.
Yeah, not far.
Right.
So that was in 1919 in Braemar in Aberdeenshire. Also in November. Oh, no. Of course it was November. Oh dear. Okay, right, question number 2. On average, we have 23 days of snow a year, but this November we have had 6 days of
I knew it was between
snow
5 and 6.
So far. Yeah, we've had it on the 14th and then every day from the 16th. So there was just a break of the 15th. Yeah, so very close. I mean, there wasn't much leeway. You had to be quite exact with the answer.
36% got that right. Well done you.
Very well done. You've been paying attention this week. Question number 3. Aidan went straight for the answer on this one, on which was the snowiest winter in the 20th century for the UK of 1947, which was answer number A. So well done if you got that at home. If you went for another answer, you were foolish to not trust Aidan.
Oh, that would be interesting. Who didn't trust me? Go on.
We've got 75% went for 1947. Yeah, it was a limited number, but a few brave souls did go for something else. Some of the other answers were quite evenly spread.
They've probably watched previous quizzes that didn't go so well for me. So, yeah.
Maybe. Okay, right. The snowflake. So the biggest snowflake ever recorded was 20 centimetres thick, and the scale of this is 38 centimetres wide. So I think that was the least popular answer. And Aidan, what did you go for? That's answer A, by the way. Aidan went. Oh, you just said yeah. Well done. Okay, so you've got 2 out of 3 so far.
Out of 4.
Out of
3 out of 4.
3 out of 4. 3 out of 4. So can you tell I've not had much sleep? 3 out of 4. Right, okay, final question.
Yeah, this is the one that's intriguing me.
The Elfsteden Dock is a speed skating race that used to take place in the Netherlands.
Yes.
Yes. Elfsteden Dock means 11 cities tour in Dutch, and it was around the Friesland take used to freeze.
Yeah.
Quite literal language. Yes, yeah. So it didn't take place while I was living there, but they haven't done it since 1997. Oh, so you got 4 out of 5.
Yeah.
I thought you might get 5 out of 5.
Well, I'm annoyed about the second question. I knew it was between 5 and 6.
Oh, yeah.
50-50.
Yeah, it's got a tricky one to do, to be fair. I thought you were going to maybe go for 7. And then I maybe would have given you the point because
Today.
we could get some snow. Well, although actually last time I checked the observations, we had only had snow recorded at like 11 o'clock last night, so it hadn't quite counted as today, so maybe I wouldn't have given you that point. Anyway, that is not valid anyway, so you got 4 out of 5. Well done. How did you all do at home? Let us know.
Sin Wong, 4 out of 5. Well done. Robert Cave, 2 out of 5. The Bubster, 2 out of 5. Oh, Chazando LFC, 5 out of 5.
Oh, well done.
Excellent.
Twist Stories taking the
Robert Giles, 4 out of 5.
extra point.
Mikey, 4 out of 4. Can I say 4 out of 4? Because I got 4 questions right out of 4.
You did get 4 out of 4 of the questions.
A few people are saying 4 out of 4. Oh, I'm looking at questions that, yeah. So I'm looking at answers that are out of date.
But I'll keep the up-to-date answers coming in then. Right, better luck next week, hopefully. Yes, and next week, Aidan is writing the quiz, aren't you? For me. It's both of us back again next week, but we'll be swapping around. So I wonder what you have in store. Hopefully I've been kind to you, so you can be relatively kind to me. I had a pretty tricky quiz last week for my first back of specialising in the Spanish Met service. All themed around Storm Claudia.
Okay, yeah, that's a good idea. I might go with an Italian Met service.
We can do a tour. Well, it is going to be quite wet in Italy next week, so maybe as the theme continues, we'll follow the bad weather.
Let's do it.
And their Met services.
Or I'll quiz you on sudden stratospheric warmings now that
Oh God, I'll have to watch this video, this back, won't I?
I mean, oh yes, please. I'd like to watch this back.
Yes, sorry, I can't wait. No, it was actually really informative. You've got some amazing graphics up on there, so worth watching back. All that on sudden stratospheric warming. We'll be watching, keeping a close eye on the forecast for the winter here at the Met Office over the next few weeks. But as we said, it's getting milder before there's a chance of it getting colder again.
Yeah, and by the way, if you're short of things to do this weekend, there is a video going up on our YouTube channel all about how the new supercomputer works. Yes. The journey of the supercomputer, with Honor
put that
making
together.
A return.
As a superhero with a supercomputer.
Met girl.
Very nice. What would your Met superhero name be?
Well, everyone calls me the Weather Lord. I don't know where that came from.
I don't know where that came from, actually.
I don't mind.
Yeah, that's a good one. The Weather Lord. You can just be an expert on everything. Fab. Okay, right. So I think that's everything for today, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah? What are you up to this weekend?
Well, taking my daughters back and forth between ballet and other dancing lessons primarily. But we're also going to start thinking about Christmas.
Oh, what does that involve?
I don't know. Family plan about how we do it.
Oh, okay.
When we get the decorations up.
Yes. Are you a pre-December sort of decorations household?
I think we're putting up some decorations on Sunday just because all our other weekends are busy.
Okay.
So it's not that we're just getting really excited early on. I'm also, very exciting news, I got a chest freezer last night, a new chest freezer. So now I've got the ability to make some Christmas food early and freeze it. So that's just
That is
It
thrilling.
It honestly doesn't get that much more
Doesn't
exciting.
get better than a
It
chest
really
freezer.
doesn't.
I know I've got a very small freezer, and sometimes I wish it was bigger because it's great for prep. Oh, that sounds fab. So you do all the cooking for Christmas?
I do, yeah. I like it though.
Yeah.
It keeps me out of the way.
Fab. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us, everyone. I hope you have a fab weekend. As I said, it's Aidan and I back again next week, so join us next Friday at 12:15 and keep your questions coming during the week. We'll have a look back at any questions we've missed and try and answer them next week. But otherwise, have a fab weekend and we'll see you again soon.
Bye-bye.